Thanks for checking out this highlight from the Casually Hardcore podcast. If you want to check out the full podcast after the show, please be sure to hit the top link in the description. But now, let's do it. Why World of Warcraft over other MMORPGs?
Yeah, it's part of it's nostalgia.
Okay.
Part of it's the fact that I was a kid, and this was the biggest time consumer that I had as a kid. But I also just think the story is so complex, and there's so many different things that you can do in the game. Kind of like we were talking about before. You can dive down so many rabbit holes, and there's so many aspects of it, and there are so many people that if you want to go get a new guild, you can. You're not tied to one thing. If you want to go raid old content, you can. If you want to go solo instances, you can try to do that. The fighting system of it is so, it allows for so many different opportunities. Like the idea of pulling 500 mobs back in the day and killing them all at once while they followed you in an instance because they don't have a reset mechanic. Like that's just incredibly unique to this game. And then being able to kill them all, and you have 60 different talent points, so you can manipulate certain different ways to be able to play with a completely different play style, and some of them will work and some of them will work better with just switching up one talent versus another. Like there's just so many different unique optimization things that you can do that make it so much fun to me.
Have you played any other MMORPGs as a test?
Yeah, I mean, I played Final Fantasy for a little bit as a kid. I never really dived back into it when I got older. I played, Destiny 2, RuneScape. I played some. I played Guild Wars for probably like 2 days, if that counts. But and then Diablo, obviously. But I think that each one of those was lacking something that I found in WoW. Yeah. Plus the nostalgic fact that it always just brought me back to WoW every single time.
It's a hard one to escape. I mean, you're pretty much when you cancel your sub to WoW, you're not canceling the game, you're taking a break. Yep. And there are people that are on a 15-year break, but they're on a break. Like you just can't say you're not going to come back. It's just been too big of a force. And that's my personal opinion. There are people who, because of things outside of the game, because of ethical concerns with the company or whatever, they really might be able to resist. But if it's purely a gameplay, you are one innovative design choice away from being drawn back in. If you do not have an ethical concern, if you do not have some moral obligation to not play, you are one playable race, you are one dungeon boss away from being like, well, I would like to kill them. So like, and then you're immediately back in. It's definitely that. I think Shadowlands has done a lot well. Shadowlands made a lot of callbacks. And so I think Shadowlands, it was really fun to go have quest givers like Lady Vosh to go back and have these moments where for everybody else, like immediately, like I'm doing a normal quest, a fetch quest, kill 8 things quest. And in my head, I'm remembering that our raid only had 2 or 3 people that could fish up Lurker. I'm remembering that we had almost a full week derail and we lost people because one of our tanks bailed and took our elemental set with it. And so there was this drama. And so and it's just a quest. And so like, there's just a huge amount of nostalgia that they can bring back because they own so much of the space. 14 is going to have that too. It's something you get with time. It's something you earn. It's not something that's purchased. And so they're cashing in on that. I think they get a lot of flack for it. They get a lot of flack for, well, they're just leaning in our nostalgia. Well, why would they not? Like, why would they give up that advantage? Why would they not release the mount that we've always wanted? Well, they're just releasing that mount because they know I want it. Of course they are. Of course they are. So, and they've taken it as a chance to innovate. I mean, we've got LGBT stuff in Shadowlands, and that's a first. And it's in content that acts as a callback, which implies that previous content that didn't tackle those issues is. So like they've come in and they've taken, because gaming is a great place to have a low stakes, real conversation. And so like they've taken it as a chance to push the game story wise. They've taken it as a chance to push the game. And it's all iterative. So like for people that have been playing the whole time and have never taken a break, it never feels like it's changed a lot. But for people that quit in TBC and come back to Shadowlands, they're like, what is this? It's a huge change if you let it ripple. If you've missed 2 or more expansions, you're not going to recognize Shadowlands.
So you said earlier that like you feel like WoW it has like maybe 2 more expansions on it. Like, and this is my ignorance of the WoW story currently, but where do you think the story in the game is going from the point where it's at today?
So what do you mean by like where do you think it's going? Like
So
the actual
like
Why 2 expansions?
like why two? And then what does that even look like narratively? Because here you're going to the Shadowlands, to death itself, and and it's like where do you think it's going? Like why two?
honestly, I think it's based on the decline that it's had since it's probably BFA. I think just the overall decline and steady decline that it's had since then, I think leads to just a couple more expansions worth of time. Other games are starting to iterate and starting to put out some real competition that I think can draw a big user base away from WoW. And so I'm more so thinking on a yearly basis. So, right, 2 expansions is roughly like 4 years or 5 years. In 4 to 5 years, if they don't do some crazy kind of iterative process or innovative process, I think another game can start to steal its user base a little bit. And it's not like it's going to go away. It's just not going to be that number one MMO that has millions and millions of people on a daily basis playing it.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think narratively, I would welcome that. At this point, we've effectively killed the big baddie, and then killed the guy who built the big baddie, and then killed the god of that guy, and then we've killed the ancient who oversaw the growth of that god, and then we've killed the people who were the essence behind the like we are killing gods of gods of gods at this point. And so like you have to start to wonder, like, is our character just going to be revealed as a god? And like they've tried to say like, oh, at this point you died and this is the reason you like it, but like at some point my character needs to die and stay dead. It's just gotten ridiculous narratively.
And they've tried to have that second game to try to take that jump from WoW, and it just fell through.
I think Diablo 3 wanted to be that.
Really?
In its own way. I think Diablo 3 having an auction house and having these systems that were at launch designed to build it to be more of an MMO within the ARPG space, they pulled back on a lot of those because the real money portion wasn't what I think it sounded like. I think in the brainstorming room, it sounded like a good idea, and they didn't want to spoil it, and they didn't want to, and so they kept it to themselves. And in a vacuum, it sounded great, and then it came out, and they pulled it out. And by pulling out the handful of things they had to pull out to make that happen, there were a lot of foundational things that allowed that game to just kind of backslide back into just being an ARPG. And it took the whole life of Diablo 3 to kind of slowly evolve back into something where now they have this, they've really leaned into the seasonal thing, and then they have like seasonal set type things and all that. And so it's become something different than I think they set out to be. And I think that based on the fact that now Diablo 4, with what sounds like the same sort of announcements leading into Diablo 3, sounds a lot like an MMO.
Okay.
It's kind of
that's my personal opinion.
Diablo 4 kind of has this shared world. It's like they're kind of like taking what Destiny has, and it's like, okay, behind the scenes there'll be times in which that might see 1 or 2 other players running around, or there might be a boss that's we want to like highlight and bring in a lot of players for, and then but it happens also like that's what I was talking about with the technology behind the scenes. Like all of this stuff is happening. You're not sitting here waiting for it to find people for you. It's just going to handle it. And thus it kind of has this flow to it that kind of allows for different sizes and aspects of the game itself. And so like even Michael says, like to Chris's point, I may come back someday, just has no current interest in grinding Artifact, Azerite, Anima. I like how they keep with
AP
that.
stuff.
So whatever the next AP thing is for the next expansion should be interesting. But what would you like to see? What would be the innovation that you would like to see within the World of Warcraft space? Because and obviously this is just brainstorming and more, but like you're 100% right. Like Chris and I get in this debate all the time, and it's that these games don't exist in their own vacuum. There is competition. Like when we look at PSO2 with what they're doing, but on the cusp, you have Blue Protocol, which looks like it's learning a lot from what Final Fantasy XIV is doing and what Phantasy Star Online is doing, and it's adapting and it's changing, trying to kind of find that next key aspect, and compete in a market for people's time, attention, and dollars. And so, like, you can't just sit here and say, yeah, this is the thing, and live on nostalgia alone. That's why, personally, I was really happy to see Nintendo actually started bringing games to mobile. I'm not a mobile gamer, But at some point, all the people who are nostalgic for your game or for your for Mario or for whatever, they're gonna die. And it's like, I know that's a fun topic for a video game podcast, but the reality is that you have to also attract new people and to bring them into the fold itself. That's why I think something I would credit innovatively to WoW is their new player experience. I wasn't a WoW player. I came in with that. It helped bring me up to speed. It helped get me into the game where none others have been able to do that. No others have been able to do that before. So I hope that you really enjoyed that highlight, and I hope that you check out the full podcast. Again, link is in the description. Thanks for being here, and I hope you have a fantastic day, you wonderful, beautiful individual.